In this video, I'm going to talk about another misconception. You know, I do about a misconception in the golf swing about 2 times a year. This one is about the big misconception of people are spinning their hips out and the swing starts from the top down, which is just one of the biggest misconceptions in golf.
How's it going today? Coach Cunningham from Atlanta Golf and Fitness Club. Subsidiary company of Forensic Golf Academy. I started Atlanta Golf and Fitness as the parent company, and now I have like 4 companies that come underneath the umbrella. And Forensic Golf is one of those companies. And I also work with 360 Golf, and I also work with Youth Academy. So I work with about 4 or 5 different companies that will do clinics and we'll do a lot of things together. So I just branched out and did Atlanta Golf and Fitness because I know a lot of people saw that change, and that was the reason why. It allows me to spread my umbrella and bring in other people underneath that umbrella, alrighty? Alright folks, so what I want to talk about could be a little touchy, but it's something that, you know what, me and the coaches in the industry, we bounce things off each other all the time. One thing I'm seeing out there is there's a person out there, there's several people, but there's one person I've met in person, we've had some back and forth, and I believe this person to be the most intellectually dishonest person that I ever met or heard talk about the golf swing. But before we unpack this, folks, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, it's extremely important. It helps us out a ton. Thumbs up or thumbs down, that's all dependent on you. But your comments are important because your comments are you. All right. So I'm not going to name names today. People can probably figure it out if they just go through YouTube and go through different things and just look and see when I say an intellectually dishonest person, right? So this person is trying to change the vernacular in the golf swing, which is okay. But they're also trying to change how the motion works in the golf swing. But when challenged and when asked, well, give me the scientific data behind that. Show me how that is working, right? If you want to swing a different way or have a different theory or hypotheses, because that's what it is. And I've said it before. It's okay to have a hypothesis, right? But you have to back it up. And the way you back it up was having golf clinics, set up after-school programs, do women clinics, do business clinics, and have clients every single chance you can get. Have clients and try your hypotheses out on them. If you have 10 students walk on the lesson tee and you try your hypotheses on all 10 and don't none of them get it but maybe one, then your hypothesis is not a good system. We want to get out of 10 students, 4 of those students should see some immediate benefit out of this hypothesis. Another 2 may get an understanding of it and start hitting the ball better within a week or 2. And then you got, you know, a 60, 55, 60, 70% ratio, and that's what you want to have. You really do. Because then with the other 4 clients, then you can look in your golf toolbox and figure out what you can do to help them out. So let's talk about this. If you're going to change the way a swing happens, if you're saying the swing is starting from the top of the swing and it's going from the top down, and that's the action, then you have to be able to disprove or prove your hypotheses, all right? So there's vertical force, horizontal force, and rotational force in the golf swing, right? All of these forces come into contact with ground force. Whatever we're doing in one of these forces directly affects how the ground force. So think about ground force like this. If you're a 3-point shooter, right, and you out on the basketball court and you just shot with your feet flat and then you shot, you probably miss a lot of shots. But when you watch the best 3-point shooters, what do? They jump, and then the hands get involved, the arms get involved because they're using the ground force. Think about this. If I just stand on the ground, the force that comes back out of the ground is equal to or even less to what I'm putting into the ground. But then, once I put force into the ground, I push into the ground, that force is multiplied. And we can multiply it several ways. We can multiply that force through rotation. There's a rotational ground force, a banking, a vertical ground force that you push and then you coming up, vertical force. But we also have a lateral, a horizontal ground force that's not talked about a lot. You have your stance width, right? So look at that stance width. We have to close the gap. When you see Scotty Scheffler sliding the foot, only thing he's doing is closing the gap. I've talked about it before. I did a couple of videos on that. Don't get caught up in that. That's his way of closing the gap. But guess what happens when you close that gap? You are creating a ground force reaction to your horizontal. You're using this space. Why would you have your feet spread out and not utilize that space? Look at all that space, which turns into power, which turns into velocity. So make sure that you guys, you ladies, or when you're playing golf, that you're closing that gap. Calvin Pete, you're playing golf like you're going downhill. You're closing that gap. So if I just have a vertical swing, and I'm going to depend on that vertical swing to do everything. I'm going to say this vertical swing, this up and down swing is going to make everything trigger. It's my trigger. So I lift it up. Where's my rotation? I got to rotate. Then I have to rotate. Then you have to drop it, right? If you drop it, what do you have to do? You have to rotate again. But look at the space I left in between me. I didn't create none of that space, right? Now here, it's a change sequence in the golf swing. This is a scientific fact. There's a change swing, right? So as I'm swinging back, now you would know this or understand this if this person actually got on force plate technology or body track or swing catalyst or anything like that, right? They would know, they would see the pressure as they're swinging. There's a trigger, right? We trigger as we going back. So it's like a rock. We pressure, shift, recenter. What happens when you recenter? You are closing the gap. And what is the last thing to happen? The swinging of the club back down. You can't beat this, folks. It's indisputable. This is something we know happens. We got so much independent testing out there. That's why I say this person is really intellectually dishonest. All right, here's the way the body works. I don't want to get too deep into this, right? Anatomy, but this is how the body works. Something has to stabilize while something makes the gesture, makes the motion. So when you hear in the industry, when you say make the gesture, that's the part, that's the body part that's making the motion, right? So in the backswing, the target side will stabilize, allows the trail side to allow the gesture of the pivot. And then we would just reverse that same motion. Stabilize, the gesture, the motion, right? The gesture, right? So if you know that, and we know it happening, because if it didn't happen, you would just fall every time you walk. When you stand up, you would fall. So even when we walk stable, gesture, stable, gesture, stable. That's how we maintain our balance. It's non-negotiable. Something has to stabilize for something else to have to move and be balanced in motion. That's why I say the golf swing is a dynamic, athletic, swinging motion. So I just like to say, if a person is going to put out bad information, they need to put a disclaimer out there and say, this is my hypotheses that I'm working on. Once they get 400 or 500 students that stand in front of them, they would all of a sudden see that some of the stuff they're saying is not going to work. It's not applicable, it's not usable, and it's not transferable to the golf course. It's just plain and simple, it's not. And we know it's not because the people that make these things up, they can't even break 90. And these are young people. They're still in their 40s, their 50s, young 60s, and they can't even break 90 on a regulation golf course. but they want to try to tell you how to lower your score. But anytime they go play a regulation golf course, they shooting in the 90s, shooting in the mid 90s. So make that make sense. Again, the way the golf swing works, something has to stabilize while you have a gesture on the other side. So if I'm swinging to the top, what is stable now? What is stable? Because this motion is moving, right? So now, when I start the downswing, I've already made this the stable side. This is the gesture side. And we can see on the first plate that the pressure is target side, it shifts to the trail, and then by the time the arms get to P4, P4.5, pressure's already shifting back. Non-negotiable. This is what the best players in the world do. The best players in the world are doing this. No matter if they have a strong grip, a weak grip, a neutral grip. Doesn't make a difference if they playing square, open, or closed. It doesn't make a difference. This is a non-negotiable. All right, so make sure, excuse me, when somebody giving you information out there, challenge the person. Challenge them. Ask them where's their data. Ask them how many clinics have they given. Ask them how many classes do they give every day. Ask them how many programs have they developed. And when they tell you, I haven't done none of that, say, okay, then what you have is a hypothesis. This is what you call subjective information. This is information that I submit to you and say, what do you think about this? Very subjective, right? You know, yeah, I don't know. This is what I think is going to happen. That's very subjective. But when you have objective information, that means you're willing to put it out there into the world and let the world test it. And then when the world tests it, you don't get upset when they bring back correct findings or they bring back a different finding than what you're feeling. And what I found out, the people who do this the most, they have a bunch of different fields every single day. Every single day. They'll make 3-4 videos and it'll be 3 or 4 different fields on that day. And then 2 days later, it's 3 or 4 different more fields, right? So think about this again. In summary, we have vertical, rotational, and horizontal, linear, right? All of those power motions come into and create a ground force. So my vertical, when you tell a person I want to be able to count the cleats on the back of your golf shoe, vertical, that's a ground force reaction. When you have rotational, you press it into the ground, banking and turning, that creates a ground force reaction. And then you have a big one right here, linear, horizontal, where you're closing the gap. That's a big ground force reaction. And then that's how you can multiply your speed, your power, your velocity, and improve your smash factor by not even adding extra work into the golf swing. Just by understanding the kinetics and the biomechanics of how things actually work, folks. And that's the difference with somebody who goes and gets certification after certification and try to learn more, because we want to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. I hope this helps you out, folks. Again, I'm not going to name the person. Everybody probably know who it is, or you can just do some research on anybody that's talking about the swing is top down. It'll tell you exactly who it is. And then watch the videos, and you'll notice videos are never done from the golf course. They're always on the driving range, and it's always with nobody around. You know, no clinics are given, no classes are made, no programs are made, no actual clients. You know, that's a scary. Would you give your money to somebody who has a listening post of 1? That's the only person that listens to them is themselves. This is the only person they work with is themselves. Is that the person you're going to give your hard-earned money to? Or are you going to give your hard-earned money to somebody who got juniors playing all around, got college players, got high handicappers, low handicappers, women clients, men clients, junior clients, clients from different ethnic groups? Which one you going to work with? All right, here we go, folks. I'm going to focus on my horizontal ground force by just simply closing the gap. And here's a cheat code. You just want to feel you making the knees kiss together. That is a lot a power and velocity in between that stance. Again, we're gonna utilize the ground force through vertical, horizontal, and rotational. And some players gonna use one more than other, maybe two more than other, but you're gonna use all three of those forces, and all three of those forces create a ground force pushback off the earth reaction. Here we go, folks. I'm gonna focus on the vertical, closing the gap, and the cheat code is just feel the knees are kissing together. That's a lot of power, velocity, and speed right here in our stance. And if we're not utilizing that, then we're selling ourselves short. We have to close that gap. So when I bank and close that gap, I'm gonna get a ground force reaction that's gonna multiply what I just put into the ground horizontally. Just the pivot, anchor my weight. That's how we play golf. Use your power sources and enjoy it. Don't deal with intellectually dishonest people because they don't have no scruples. They don't have no clients and they don't have no scruples. Take care. Anchor my weight. That's how we play golf.
All right, folks. So it says it's 156, 155, whatever. But it's uphill. This is a one club extra hole, and we have wind today. If you can hear it in the phone, probably. So I played it for 165. So I took a 7-iron because it's probably only about 70 degrees right now versus 90 we just had on Friday. But it was a very well struck shot. But again, oh man, that's hunting right there. That is hunting. Yeah. And rare occasion where this pin is in the front on this hole. I'll take that all day long. Yeah, good tee shot, good second shot. And again, so folks, just be careful who you deal with out there and what you listening to out there. Get vetted. You know, don't be afraid. Here's the ball right here. Pin's right there. Uphill, so you can see the slope right there. A good 25, 30 degree slope. Yeah, elevated green. Beautiful course right now, huh? Right. So hey, again, folks, so don't be, I'm just gonna pick this up. I'm not worried about birdies or pars or anything today. I'm just doing this in between the lesson. So vet the person you dealing with. Don't be afraid to go on their YouTube channel or wherever they are and just ask them the tough questions. Tell them, well, this is what I learned. This is what I know. You know, this is what I heard Dr. Sasho McKenzie, Dr. Kwan, you know, some of the leading kinetics, biomechanics in the whole entire golf industry in the world, right? These people got access to all the greatest equipment in the world. They test subjects. They got databases with 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people, all the way from elite juniors, elite college players to tour professionals, right? To high handicappers. So who are you going to believe? Somebody who's actually measuring evidence-based or somebody who has a hypothesis and just got a bunch of subjective information? The choice is yours.